Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we have the new Deoxys attack suspect. I think you didn't see that coming. Wow, Deoxys attack, 100 base special attack, Lord's expanding force, the most uncompetitive move of all time. That's crazy, bro. Who could have guessed this Pokemon would have been overpowered? Anyways, yeah, we have the suspect, long awaited. There was a decent amount of people that argued that it deserved to be suspect before Flutter. However, we did see the Flutter suspect, which I was very glad to see. Mon got removed pretty comfortably. And the meta game settled down for a few weeks. It honestly hasn't been that bad. Uh, it's been more enjoyable, but there's been a lot of people that have wanted this suspect for a fair amount. And so, yeah, the council gave it a few weeks to settle, but they ultimately decided to give it a suspect, which just went up about 5 hours ago. And so, yeah, I'm here today to give my thoughts on the matter. Probably already made that my stance pretty clear here, but yeah, we'll go into more detail, go over some good replays. Yeah, we'll hop right into it. All right, so there's no real need to beat around the bush here. This mon is basically just the size spam mon. DO's been illegal in DOU basically every gen, except for like 4 and 3, I think. And honestly, in gens like 5 through 8, or no, not 5 through 7. It's not in 8. It's not that broken, It's like totally fine. It's like a very hyper offensive mon. However, this was not a Pokemon that was meant to learn Expanding Force, and what did they do? They gave it Expanding Force in SV. So now we are dealing with 180 best base special attack, powered up by Terra, by the way. It just, it's very powerful. I'm someone that just generally doesn't really think Size Spam is that healthy a mechanic in the first place, especially with Expanding Force. I think it's a really stupid move. When you look at the terrain moves, it's a bit of a side point, but I think it's important to note here. I think what makes Expanding Force particularly broken is it solely relies on you. We have like Rising Voltage, which is like obviously not going to be as broken as Expanding Force because it doesn't hit both lines, but one of the few things that like actually gives it a little bit of like interesting counterplay, albeit doesn't really come into effect too often, is that it doesn't double power when the target isn't grounded. However, Expanding Force, the power boost is solely dependent on you being grounded, which leads to hilarious situations like a Zelf not being able to click Expanding Force despite learning the move naturally. So yeah, in general, I'm coming from a position of I don't really think Size Spam is too healthy. Thankfully, we do have stuff like Rilla, which obviously terrain control helps shut down psychic terrain pretty well. However, it often leads to like just terrain wars. Just because you have Rilla on your team does not secure your Size Spam matchup by itself, although it does generally make it more playable. Uh, but yeah, I'm someone that doesn't really like vibe with Expanding Forces and move too much. And so like we've always been a little bit lucky in that the mods that have clicked it have been like you had to like the only reason you were using them was because they learned Expanding Force. Armor for instance, they're usually like slow mons. What the thing with Deoxys that makes it so dumb is that it's so much faster. It's like just faster than everything else in the metagame. Besides like the booster mons. It's really introduced like a whole new like speed benchmark that you want to creep a lot of the time. It's very fast, it's very strong, and it clicks the strong move. So how have we actually seen this pan out in practice? Now, Deoxys attack doesn't actually have as much usage as something like Flutter, for instance, which was on like basically every team before we banned it. Extremely centralizing, used all the time, basically impossible not to justify in the builder. That was a mod that really fit on every team. Deoxys is not that kind of mod. Uh, I've seen a few teams, ran a few teams myself with Deoxys on by spam. I've read it as like a extreme speed clicker, and it's honestly not bad. It's like what it does in past generations to decent effects. See like Do sharpen XY, etc. Uh, clicks extreme speed, superpower, psycho boost, just blows things up. But that's a mod that like it trades itself for like 1 or 2 KOs most of the time. It's not going to sweep your team because it's too frail and it can't double target. However, now, obviously, it can. But that does mean that Deoxys attack is pretty much limited in this role, in particular, just to side spam, which obviously limits it. You have to run in DD, which, honestly, a decent mod has follow me support. Um, it's not bad, but at the same time, you still have to justify running 2 mods, and then DD is really it's not really doing anything offensively, so you're really committing a lot when you're building side spam. You can pair different things with side spam, but at the end of the day, it's still side spam. It's only one archetype, and so as a consequence of that, it hasn't really like seen the highest amount of usage. Let's see if we have cumulative stats here. I'm not sure we do. That might be only until after DPL. Oh yeah, I should mention this context for anyone who's unaware. Currently, we are in the middle of Doubles Premier League, the biggest, generally most prestigious doubles forum team tour, and that's been like the primary like way we've seen the attack in action here. And so that's like a lot of the stuff I'll be pointing out here. As you can see, only like 2 use cases in week 1 both times. Week 2, let's see here. I could just see this. Okay, this is not really good. But anyways, it's not really like that prevalent a mod. However, what I will be arguing here today is that I think it really just like constrains the team builder too much and is a little just too much of a bit of a like popular matchup fish that I don't think it really belongs in our tier. Uh, let's see, week 4. This is more recent. Free uses, not that much. Wins 2 out of 3 times. Okay, could be worse. Week 5 here. Where is it? Damn, did no one bring it last week? That's kind of funny. Oh, 1 usage. So yeah, the stats they don't really indicate much here, right? If you just looked at the stats, you're like, okay, this is just a normal mod. Um, and I could understand that perspective. However, basically, what I'm gonna like talk about here is like why I think like when you look at the actual games where it's brought, that's when this Pokemon becomes kind of broken. And then we'll look at a couple team structures and such that really I think have like make it look really broken. And really, I think like the case with the in general and doubles is like it's a little bit different, right? Because it's a lot harder for a Pokemon to become just outright broken to the effect that it just runs away with games. And so I think like the way we've traditionally see Pokemon as broken is in doubles is that these mods that just they're not really like the same kind of broken as you see in singles. So they dominate the game. In doubles, it's like they dominate the game. They like everything becomes centralized around them. The metagame is like that, and Deoxys Attack does that too, right? Like it's you almost always want to make sure you have a dark type or a Rillaboom on your team to make sure you don't just auto lose the side spam, right? That's one of the team building constraints we'll talk about. But I think what makes Deoxys attack different from something like Fluttermane is it's really just unfair. It just does too much damage when you're not prepared to deal with it, and I think it's just something that really shouldn't have to be taken into consideration. Just like the same way with Kieran Black got quick banned. It's really just maybe it doesn't win every game. Maybe it's not the most used one, but it really, at the end of the day, is fundamentally broken and wins games. It really just shouldn't be able to win as easily as it does. All right, so let's see. Let's try to find Deoxys attack replays here. No, no. All right, so here's one game that I remember vaguely. ESM has been one of the big proponents of Deoxys attack being broken and extremely strong. And let's look at the matchup he faces here. He faces a Rillaboom and a Chien-Pao, obviously, right? So 2 mons that aren't exactly great for Deoxys. ESM would have to win the terrain war here. However, you can have a full team of six Mons in doubles, right? Um, and so, although like it looks like you can handle Deoxys on preview pretty well here, this is keep in mind this is even with Fluttermane in the tier right now. So the game goes along, few things get traded down, and then Deoxys attack doesn't actually do that much in this game. Uh, yeah, but it does come in at the end here. And part of the thing about this game in particular, right, is that this was not as quite as relevant now as it was then. But there was a lot of resources that had to be dedicated to stopping Deoxys' attack in this matchup, um, and that necessitated like a style of play that really like let the other Mons just like tear through the team. Yeah, so this is not maybe not exactly the clearest instance of Deoxys' attack being broken, but you can definitely see like the pressure it exerts in this game, um, even if it just comes out at the end, right? But as I said, like this is with Flutter in the tier, entirely different metagame. Uh, not a whole lot of replays as noticed here. Let's go one by one, I guess. Uh, no Dio, no Dio, no Dio, no Dio, no Dio. All right, here's a funny instance. Deoxys attack, I don't believe wins this game, but it does. I'm pretty sure it has a funny moment here, as we see. Not a great turn one there. It clicks Stealth Rock. Yep, it can do that too. It does have a decent amount of set variety. Here we're going to see the Terra Psychic. The Snarl comes out. However, this thing is still going to do a lot of damage. As you see, like both Mons just get hit really, really hard, even at -1 there. And so that's a good instance. Even if this wasn't exactly the greatest use of Deoxys here, you just got snarled, and you still did like 60 and 70% to the targets on the other side. So this is just like I said, the damage output here is just crazy. Let's see one more game here. No, I don't think so. Check the usage to make sure I didn't miss one. Yeah, just one usage there. Go to Rick Free then. No Dio. No Dio. And the thing is, like, there's a lot of people, myself included, that don't really particularly like using side spam. Oh, here's a replay. So we see the Slow King team. I think this was the last week Flutter was legal. Uh, let's see if we can get anything here. Okay, Dio doesn't really do a whole lot here. However, I will say these are not games exactly where the Dio is really being maneuvered to do much damage. However, you can really still see like the damage it's doing is really just crazy. Like that's 50% to probably an assault vest Rillaboom, with no Terra, by the way. Uh, it's an interesting example of a side spam team. Kind of usual, interesting team from Shister here. But as you can see, there's a lot of things you could run with side spam. So it's not just like Deoxys makes the archetype better, but the archetype you're dealing with is like still very versatile. It could have all sorts of things, such as the Iron Hand set here. Um, Almost like a callback to another time of a long time ago, like a year, I guess. But yeah. So this is an interesting example of how side spam can be built to really just like win in ways other than Dio. And Dio here just being used to like do a little bit of damage to weaken up targets for later on in the game where the the other mods can really just clean up here, as you can see. Um, yeah. Let's see. Do we have anything else Deoxys related in this week? Okay, we do somewhere else. All right, another ESF game here. Once again, very offensive team. Oh, Flutterman was legal this week too, apparently. As we see the Deoxys click Psycho Boost and take the torn down to 6%. You can also do that too. Basically, what you often see with this mod is it has like a lot of opportunity to do a lot of annoying things with its third move slot. So you can see Psycho Boost, which is just a nuke, really will just like take out a lot of things. Uh, can see Icy Wind for speed control. We saw Stealth Rock. I'm not really like too high on that particular set, but it does exist. Uh, so really, despite being on paper a pretty one-dimensional mod, it actually has a decent number of move slots to make use of, and a decent move pool as well. Obviously, Superpower lets it hit its checks pretty well, but I think this game's a pretty good example of DO being a little broken because, as you can see, took out a few mods early, or did a lot of damage early, helped other things clean up, and I believe it's what ultimately ends up sweeping this game. Um, maybe not. Yeah, okay. And then it just comes in, clicks Expanding Force, does lots of damage, and that's how he wins the game. So yeah, this is a pretty clear-cut example of this mod just getting too much value for free. Another example of another way you can run size spam, really just proving that there's a lot of ways you can run this mod, even just on size spam. Uh, go to week 4 here, I guess. Or no, week 5. No, week 4. Let's see. Uh, he didn't bring size spam this week. Who did? All right. This is an interesting mirror match between size spam and worse size spam. So obviously this is a little bit different because obviously Deoxys is on both teams. But I think later on in this game, oh my god, that is just crazy. Psycho Boost really just does ridiculous amounts of damage. I don't think like it's something you want to run in every set, but it's a little crazy. So we see the expanding force come out, another expanding force misses the heat wave. That's kind of crazy. Obviously that was a crit, but really it was going to die to the heat wave anyway. And you can see DOA just exerting like an absurd amount of damage in this game. Really just crazy amounts of damage. Um, let's see if we have any other examples here. That one. It would be a size spam team without Dio, uh, which I don't really think is like necessarily optimal, but it's something we would see with even without DOA. I should mention that. Even without DOA, you'll still see size spam, but really it should be manageable in this tier. We have a lot of tools such as like Rillaboom and Sin, etc. But those checks, I don't really think are enough for Dio, but they really are for like a lot of the other size spam mods, and that's really what makes Dio so broken is how easy it is to launch these powerful expanding core slots. Where it's like mods like Necrozma, Iron Crown, etc. You have to do a little bit more positioning to be able to do that. Uh, yeah, see. None there. It's a funny game. See. I don't remember if DOA actually does much in this game. Okay, it clicked Superpower once. Oh, and it clicked Dark Pulse on a crit. Did 93%. Another game where it really just does a lot of damage. Like this is another option you can see, right? It's a Dark Pulse. Like it's kind of crazy to see. You don't really see that too often, but it's definitely one of the moves it learns. Yeah. Uh, Again, these replays don't like definitively by themselves so that it's broken, but as we'll see, like after, like obviously in game it's a little bit broken, but I think the primary thing to look at is just the effect on the team builder, which we'll look at in a few minutes. But yeah, just another like one of the things I would say is a little bit broken about Dio is just like the pressure it exerts in game. Like it's really hard to play about around a mon that does like so much damage with basically for free. And that's really what something I'd like to emphasize a bit more is that obviously side spam will still exist, but Dio is just a mon that gets so much like free value out of side spam. It's a lot easier to use. And I think having a Pokemon with that such a powerful move on that archetype, an archetype I think is already inherently kind of unhealthy, given like the mind games it forces, the terrain wars it forces, and just the raw damage involved. Uh, Having a mon that's just such an easy tool for that kind of archetype is a little bit it's just really stupid. And I think it could, even if DOA wasn't just like outright sweeping in these games, you can see like the amount of like pressure it's exerting is really just a lot. Let's see. I will look at the most recent week here. Oh, this was an interesting game. Um, where there were some interesting plays made. However, this game would have been won by Dio if IC Win didn't just happen to miss. Again, the other set, it really like you could see just the variety of possible sets you can see. Um, it's kind of crazy, right? We've seen Dark Pulse, we've seen Icy Wind, we've seen Psyshock, we've seen Stealth Rock. So it has like a lot of tools. Yeah. All right. I believe that might be the only usage you got last week. Here. Yeah, looks like it. It doesn't look like any other Deoxys usages here, which is interesting. I think it's being a little bit underused, right? I do think that's something that obviously goes a little bit against my position here, the ban Dio crowd, but I think it's really just comes from it being a playstyle. A lot of people don't want to play. We've seen a lot of people that want to ban this mon the last few weeks. And honestly, like, it's just not that interesting a Pokemon. So I'm not really too surprised that less people are using it that maybe should be in like an optimized metagame. But I really do think like it could be used a lot more than it is being used. Obviously, it won most of the games we were looking at here, but I definitely think it's being a little bit underutilized. Let's see if there's anything from this week here. Um, no and no. I think yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's basically a little bit of replay analysis there. Doesn't like again not something that automatically by itself just proves that Deoxys is broken, but you can see within the game state, it does like lots of damage, to put it lightly. Can force a lot of difficult positions for like defensive counterplay. But yeah, now I'd like to take little bit of a look at like some of like the team archetypes we've seen side spam uh, on Do on. We'll start off with the sample teams here. I'm not sure if there's really much of Yeah, okay, this team by Trio. Um, very good player, plays a lot of VGC as well as DOU. This team is like the epitome of what makes Deoxys broken because here he's paired um, the size spam with Trick Room as well as Mulligan. And this team is like really annoyed. I've played it on ladder several times. It really this might be the most optimized size spam team I've seen. It really like forced a lot of pressure because of the Trick Room mode in particular, right? Um, you try to get around DOA with speed control, setting up Tailwind, but then this thing just clicks this Hatterene here and DD here, just clicks Trick Room, and all of a sudden you're forced to stare down like these other mons that kind of just sweep you under Trick Room. Um, so this is a good instance of like a very powerful size spam team that I would argue is just like a little bit too strong and too because of Dio, right? Like if you take away Dio here, this just becomes like Sun Trick Room, right? It's playable. We've seen that kind of archetype for all of SV. But obviously to me at least, it's DOA here that makes this team just so overwhelmingly powerful and difficult to take down. Um, yeah, let's see if I got anything else here. Okay, so uh, more sample teams. I think that's the only one with Dio currently, but we obviously saw a fair amount of usage or like different use cases for Dio and those replays there. But I will go into the team builder here and show off a few things in particular that I think. Oh, here by the way is a Pokey paste I use to ladder for the suspect if you're wanting one. I will leave the Pokey paste in the pinned comment or in the description or something. Um, as well as you can find it on my Rex post as well. But yeah, I use this for the suspect. I spit her Chen Pao to get rid of terrain. I really didn't have much trouble into Dio with this team. I only played it like once and it was like in the 1200s, so obviously not too surprising, but this is the team I used. I will say it struggles a little bit in DNC, but you have Ironhead, Dragonite, as well as encore pressure from Whimsicott to like threaten a lot of Trick Room fighters. So this is a fun team. Uh, feel free to use it if you want to have like a quick team to ladder for the suspect. All right, now we'll take a look at some DO builds. Uh, as you can see, I've been cooking here. Okay, so these are some of the teams I've used with Dio. As you can see, not that many. I actually kind of like haven't used it that much because I don't really find it that interesting to use personally. Here's the team I use that has it not on side spam, just as like next to Chen Pao doing a lot of damage. But it's another side spam team. Ignore the Mian Shao. But really, the team for me a while back that this obviously was Wall Flutter was legal, so it's not like totally 1-to-1 here. This was the team that really convinced me that Deoxys attack was broken. I got rank 1 with this team, held it for a while with this team, um, which really just leveraged Deoxys attack next to GU. Like Flutter was here as well, but I think the main core of this team was really like the DOA, the Ndidi, the GU, and the Whimsicott. These four in particular were just like very powerful. Yeah, it was just a way of leveraging this one to just do as maximum damage as possible. And really, that's the thing. It has so much access to modifiers. It's between Terra, um, GU support, Helping Hand, obviously Psychic Terrain, which is inherent to using the mod anyway. But I've also, by the way, you could run Nasty Plot on this mod. We haven't seen that too much, but I think like in the right situation, that could like totally sweep a game. Um, I think if we'd seen more DOA usage, we would have seen that by now, but obviously we haven't. So yeah, these are just some examples of various DOA teams that I have personally. Ignore the Iron Valiant size spam team. That was from a while ago. But obviously, as you can see like Trick Room stuff here, Necrozma, offensive Flutter stuff, which we had before. And really, the good example was this one by Tio here as a Trick Room team. So that brings me to how exactly you counter this mod in the builder. So to do this, we'll look at a lot of the recent teams I've used. My team is out of DPL, so there's not really like a whole lot of incentive for me to like really hide my teams here. Obviously, as I mentioned here with this one, I have speed control. I have ice spinner Chan Pao to get rid of terrain to make it more playable. That's something that can really help into like side spam in general. It's just removing the terrain. Ice spinner is a nice tool for that. However, this matchup is I think would be kind of tenuous into like a really strong player, right? Because you could between like the pivoting between Ndidi in and out. This team actually doesn't really have that much room to like handle DOA. So that's why we see teams like this, which have like Roy and Moon and stuff. A mon that hasn't like totally seen like a lot of usage, but it does have. It is one of the mons that has one of the best matchups in the DOA and the tier. However, if you're not running like the good set, which I don't think most people are, US West ran this a lot a while back, like this set. And this set is actually really good into Deoxys attack because you guarantee leave a superpower pretty comfortably as well. It's not like super close or anything. But like when you invest bulky in this mon, like it is something that takes down Deoxys pretty well. However, we haven't actually seen too much of this guy because most of the time it's not as good as Tord, right? Because Tord is obviously gets up Prankster Tailwind, which is much easier to use than just like um, something that's just fast and clicks Tailwind. Obviously, still solid in my opinion, but we haven't really seen too much usage of this. But this is something that can handle DOA pretty well. However, if you're not running this kind of set, you will just die to superpower, and there goes your dark type. So something to keep in mind there. More commonly, we'll see stuff like Rilla, right? And so Rilla, obviously a strong mod. However, I like we've seen like a lot of Rilla usage, and I think a fair amount of that is due to just DO being legal in the tier in general. Let's look at the usage stats again here. Stats. Obviously, really, Rilla being good is not like much of a shocker. But as you can see here, 33% usage for this mod lately. So this is a mod that you kind of have to resort to like solve your size fan matchup a lot of the time, or at least make it playable. Uh, close to 30% usage here. So this is not like again by itself not an indication that Deoxys is just totally outright broken. But when you consider like the impact it has on the team builder, like often feeling just like you have to run something like Rillaboom. In this case, Rillaboom plus a Dark type. Um, and this is a team that has like a pretty bad size spam matchup. If I'm being honest, like this probably gets farmed by stuff. Obviously, I'm running like Pheasantipity here, so I mean, I can't really complain too much about that. But really, this is the kind of team that DOA really punishes, right? Because it doesn't have like dynamic speed, uh, or it doesn't have like Prankster Tailwind, is what I mean. So these are the kind of like balanced teams that like I really think DOA kind of punishes hard. And that's not something I really particularly find helpful. So, in my opinion, uh, between the effect on the team builder, just how broken it is in game, and everything else, I really do think this mod is broken and deserves to go. Um, yeah. Let's see any other examples here? I have Rain. See that this like I will say this metagame has been a lot more enjoyable since the Flutter ban. I don't feel as strongly as I did about Flutter. Flutter really was like a toxic presence for like a very long time, in my opinion. Very steadily made the metagame more offensive over time, and really by the end it was just like an HO fest. Um, so I don't see Deoxys as like totally game breaking as that, but I do think like when it does show up, it's a broken one. You don't see it like all the time, but when this one does show up, it's like you're gonna like at least part of you is gonna be like, man, they're using Deoxys. Like that one's so broken. At least that's how I see it. It's like it's not. It just feels like an unfair bond that shouldn't be in the tier to me, and that's why I will be voting ban on it. Yeah. So that's the video. I'll probably be back tomorrow for maybe a more scripted style video, maybe going over some team building stuff. But yeah, uh, feel free to let me know what you think about this one, or post in the thread. Always a good way to get your voice heard here. Let me find the thread here. So yeah, so this is the thread. People have posted some good arguments here. Yeah, this is a good post. Hindrance on team building in every way has to have 2 to 3 ways of consistently beating DO. Yeah, so you could check out this for further information on this. This is where I will post this video. So yeah, feel free to leave your thoughts in this thread, obviously, or in the comments or wherever. Yeah, thanks for watching.